In this lesson, we're going to learn how to design HTML campaigns that we can include in our marketing sequences, our customer announcements, newsletters, whatever that is. So in our previous lesson, we learned how to create the plain text emails, and you can see I'm back where those reside. And I can find this again underneath the template studio. So when I go here, it takes me to this screen. And then what I want to do is I want to click on New Template. And I have two options here. One is going to be basic emails, which we already did. And now we want to design an HTML email. So it's going to take me to a similar screen. This is the profile for the template. And as you can see on the right-hand side, everything is consistent with what we saw in the plain text. I'll be completing that in just a moment. But off to the left-hand side, we have an empty preview pane because we don't have a template yet. What's different about this is we now have an Edit Design button, and the plain text version had the rich text editor that I can start typing in here immediately. Okay, so the example here that I have is a Memorial Day marketing piece that I want to incentivize some sales before or on Memorial Day weekend. So this is creating a sense of urgency that it's going to go out to my contacts or my leads and opportunities, my existing customers, whatever that may be, and I want to make sure that they know that we're having some great deals. Act now, on or before Memorial Day weekend, and you can save big. So it's very simple. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go here and click on the Edit Design button. All right, so this takes me to the Design Studio. And it's a very simple process to begin building your HTML marketing campaigns. So over here, I'm going to start focusing on the blocks, the content, and the style. So right now I'm in the blocks section. You can see that's underlined here. So if I went to the content section, which is nothing, that's underlined and so on. So we'll see that materialize as we begin to build this. Down below is going to be a listing of my blocks. And I have two options as it relates to the blocks. Number one, I can drag and drop. And number two, I can go ahead and just click the Add button, and it'll layer it down below the last one that's on the page here. Okay, so a couple things to note, that now as I click on these blocks, it automatically takes me to the content, and I have some controls for my content here. So let's take a look. I can show the title, or I can hide it. By default, they're all turned on, so if I hide it, the title went away. If I show it, it comes back on. Same thing with the button. Same thing with the image. Okay, so you have some variables there that you can use to your advantage in designing your marketing piece. Now the next thing I can do is I can click on the image here and basically make it a link. Okay, so I can link to my web page, I can link to the promotion, whatever the ad may be. Down below I have what they call alternative text. If you're not familiar with this, it's a name for the image that will load faster prior to the image loading. So if it's going to take a few seconds for all your images to load and render within an email, at least the alternative text will give that reader an idea of what's being loaded. So you can say Memorial Day savings sale or something like that. Okay, we'll do that in just a moment. Now these properties underneath the content basically change and adhere to whatever the block contains. So in this instance, now we can see we have some of the same familiar items, but over here, I can control the image height. So as I start doing this, it's changing the height of the images that I could have in here. And then of course, the left image can have a link and an alternative text like we discussed, and then the right image over here can have a link as well. So when you click on either one of these images, they will go to a URL, a specific link, they'll take action, okay? All right, the buttons down below, you can add your own links to, so you can put those in here. There's some advanced options here we'll be exploring in another video. But right now, what happens is that I can click on that button, it'll take me to a particular page or link or call up an action, okay? So you have access to that. You can see over here when I click on these, I have my rich text editing, so you can choose your font family, you can choose your font sizes, you can make links in here. You can choose formats. Are they headings? Do you want them to be, paragraphs? How are they aligned? And so on. So these are all your rich text editing tools that you have available to you, where you can change even font colors and so on. All right. Okay. So before we go any further, let's take a look at the style. And the style also contains some information that has to do with the colors, the backgrounds. You can see you also have font availabilities here. So why do you have both? Well, this is inherent to the blocks, but you actually have some more controls over here as it relates to the styling of the fonts. It does include sizes like these do, but you don't get some of the other things like the formatting of the bullets, indentations, things like that. So this is more advanced, if you will. Personally, I tend to use these more. But you also have the basics over here. Now, what these will do for you that this won't do is that this will actually establish the default colors to your entire template. Okay, so you can consider these to be overrides, but these will actually provide you the default colors. So let me give you an example. We could say the paragraph could be green, and it'll change all paragraphs to green. Okay, you can override that with the colors that you have here, etc. So that'll just impact what's here. You can also do that with the link colors, so we can say there'll be a darker green. You can see that there's a darker green link color over here now. And then, of course, we can say the buttons are going to have these properties. You can adjust the corner radiuses and so on and so forth. For more advanced users, if you're using programs like Photoshop and you're trying to stay consistent with your brand and some of the other marketing you've been doing, if you sample a color within Photoshop or any tool that you have the ability where you can sample a color and get the hex codes for, you can just copy and paste the hex codes in here and it'll give you the colors that you want. Okay, so that's something that's important to know if you're working with specific colors in mind. All right, so you have all of these controls here. Again, they're universally changed over here, that sort of thing. You can change this along the way. I'll put some white in here. I know this isn't looking attractive, but at the same time, it's just to give you that idea of what it is that you can be doing. Titles, etc., that sort of thing, okay? All right, so we have that. So one other important thing to note about the styles that we have is this button at the top, this toggle at the top. There's 3 squares and then there's 1 square. And basically, it's 3 blocks and 1 blocks. And what you're seeing here is that this means when it's looking at all the 3 blocks, it's symbolizing that any change that I make here is going to be global, okay, with all titles, etc. So you can see the section title up here, the title down here, and so on. So any change I'm going to make here is going to be global, okay? For the sake of showing this exercise as well, I'm going to duplicate this just so I can have another section down below. So by clicking on this over here, the duplicate button, I've made another section down below. And even if I had images in here, etc., it would duplicate the contents and everything that I had. And if I change this now to a single block, it basically explains that the section that I'm working on will only be subjected to the change that I'm about to make. So if I change this to blue, pardon me, I'll change it over here. I'd change blocks. So I changed this over here to, let's say, red. Only this one here will change, okay, because I'm in this mode where I'm only changing this one here. All right, so you have that. If you want, you can drag and drop by just pulling up and down. You can drag and drop, or you can nudge up and down, okay, by using the nudge tools here. And then, of course, if you don't like a section entirely, you can just can it, okay? Which brings me to the next item in the list is the undo. So if I made a mistake, I can redo that action. Just click the undo over here, and it'll bring it back, okay? So you can undo and you can redo, one of the two. Now, as it relates to the other items that you have in the list, we'll cover the images in just a moment. I do want to mention that you have a preview that you can look at to show a live preview of what this would look like across different types of platforms. So I like to work in this mode just because it brings it up. I can see off to the side here that I have now a mobile view, okay? So this is what it's going to look like when it's coming through on a desktop. This is what it's going to look like when it's coming through on a mobile device, all right? So as it relates to the mobile devices, you can go down here and you can see I can see the entire message, how it would relay on somebody's Android or iOS. Now at the very bottom, mobile selected, and I can choose tablet. Sort of breaks that up a little bit differently for me so I can see what it looks like in a tablet. And then of course I have the desktop version, which is going to be what I see here. So I can switch back and forth. So traditionally, I just keep this on mobile. So the other thing I'd like to do is make sure that every time I make an adjustment to this, I save it. So if I leave this screen without saving, or before my last save as an example, I want to make sure that I save this, it's saved successfully down below, because if I leave this screen, anything that's not saved will be gone. So now this is completely saved, and I can come back to it later. If I want, we'll be exploring the test later on when we actually get this to come through, but this gives me an opportunity to test this, and I can send it to an email address, which we'll be doing shortly once we complete this. And you can basically send this off to yourself. You can send it to some colleagues, etc. It comes through as a test, and you can see what the contents look like and make sure that everything looks good. Another thing about the testing I would just say is you might want to test your templates across a variety of different, not just platforms, but email clients as well. So you might want to have somebody look at it in a web-based email client like Gmail versus Outlook on PC, Outlook on Mac, that sort of thing. So just to make sure that everything looks the way that it should, if you have access to those programs, go ahead, and I highly recommend doing that. And again, like I said in the previous one, second set of eyes always helps with is the message being communicated effectively, are there any typos, that sort of thing. You can download the code if you want by clicking on the download button over here, and then the close is just closes this window here. So it's pretty straightforward as to what you have access to. Now, as it relates to imagery, one of the things that's practical is that I can go ahead and I can open or upload a new image. Okay, so I have access to browsing my library of images and just simply uploading something like this. Or if I've already uploaded images, which is practical as it relates to your brand, your logo, products that you commonly sell, promotions that you're typically running, imagery that you're using to repurpose in many campaigns because it's a message that's constant with your organization. Once you do that, they'll be available in your gallery, okay? So once you do that over here, you can click on the gallery images and choose which ones you may want to have, okay? And it's just a matter of dragging and dropping, or you can just do something like this, okay? So I'm going to turn this off so I can get more space here. Things like this, just drag and drop, okay? Now, a word of advice on this, if you don't have access to tools like Photoshop, one of the things you'll want to explore is you want to make these images as small as possible. You will run into a problem. They will not upload if they're over a meg in size, and that's obviously because nobody's going to want to have emails that are coming through that are over a megabyte in size with imagery. So you want to keep your images as low as possible. In Photoshop, you can accomplish this by saving for the web and then choosing, the variety of different formats like PNG, JPEG, high format, that sort of thing, and then try and keep each one of these images, if you can, below 100K if that's possible, okay? The lower, the better, because the quicker the email will load, okay? So that's a very important key feature about web design and email marketing and whatnot. You want to make sure those images have have a high quality image, but have a low file size as far as kilobytes is concerned. All right. So again, you can see how easy this was just to drag and drop or upload some files. So to get you started with some of your imagery and some of your graphics to jazz things up just a little bit, here's a couple of resources that are beneficial to you. Pexels provides free stock photography, okay? All of the imagery that's here is royalty free. So if you want to look up something, for instance, just say business, then you can get stock photography like this, something you may want to use, all right? Let's click on this as an example, and then you can get a free download, okay? You want to take the smallest, okay? So in this case, I would take this one here. I'm going to download it. And then what I'll do is I'm going to go back to my template. Let me duplicate this one. I'll change this at the top, open this here, go to my downloads, Pexels, here you go, okay? So you can start gathering a variety of photos for occasions of things that you're looking for. Again, this is all free and made available to you. A couple of other resources that I think are important that you should know about if you're not familiar, but they are paid resources, and I would caution you from pulling imagery off the net. Basically, you're in violation of copyright with specific photographers and artists and services that are out there, like Shutterstock and Getty Images, etc. You do not want to do that, okay? So other services that you may want to consider, Shutterstock is really nice. They have some very affordable packages to buy imagery. You can choose the imagery you want, and of course this is tens of thousands of images here. For graphic design, I recommend Graphic River. It's part of the Envato marketplace. You can look for any graphics you want. So if we're talking about sales as an example, things like this, you can get, professionally designed, and you can see they're very affordable. Okay, extremely affordable. So if you're on a budget, this is a great place to start. And you can get some of this imagery here. You can build up a library of different images that you like, not have to purchase them, just store them in light boxes and sort them accordingly as you could with the Shutterstock accounts, etc. So there's a lot of resources that you have available to you. All right, so let's get started on our Memorial Day ad. So I've cleaned this up a little bit just to save some time. I've reset some of the colors to look a little bit more not so crazy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my pixels, and the first thing I want to start looking for is an American flag. Okay. So you can see I have some options that come up over here. Something I'm going to demonstrate is with respect to the text overlay options that I have. So I want to get something that I can actually apply text to. You know what? I saw this one up here. I kind of like this. Let's click on this. I'll do the, again, free download. Choose this. Download this here. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to go back over here to my templates, and I'll choose this one. I'll click on upload, and then I'll choose the flag. Okay? So perfect. I got my image in there. It looks nice. I'm pleased with it. And now what I can do is, as it relates to this, if I want, I can delete the photo, okay? And then if I need to bring it back, I can find it over here in my recents, okay? So I just put it back over here. So now what I want to do is I have this little pen tool. And when I click on this, it brings up some editing tools for this image, okay? So you can see I have a variety of different things. I can put different effects on it if I want. So I can choose that sort of thing, give it some vintage looks. Kind of the Instagram look, if you will. I'm going to stick with the original because I kind of liked it. I think these filters have already been applied at some point, or similar ones to it. But what I would like to do is add some text. So over here, what I can do is I can say save big, whatever that may be. And then what I can do is change the size of the font. You can see I can bend it. I can do whatever I'd like. Position it a little bit better. I'm not going to do something really exciting here. Let me just do, if I can do like that. That's kind of goes with the colors. And I'll hit apply. And I hit save. So now you can see this is saving to the image. I'm going to close this, and I have this now on the actual image itself. All right? So I can do that. Again, I can add, we'll click on here, style, or rather my imagery. I'll just add this one again here. And then I can go through my gallery of the images that I had used in the past. Okay, a lot of these different ones. Food's always a winner, so we'll put that here. Can put in my titles and so on. So I'm not really going to go through that of editing these things, etc. I mean, you get the idea. It's just pretty much typing and setting up what you need. But here is my ad, and let's just assume that I'm happy with this. What I'll do down below is I want to make sure that when I click on this, it's going to take me to a website. So I'll click on the link over here. I'm going to go to http www.mothernode.com. Okay, I'm going to copy this, do this here like this, click OK. Then down below I'll do the exact same things for these. Click on the links, click OK, click on the links, click OK. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to test this. So let's take a look at this. Perfect. Now I can see that it was sent. So let's go check that email. All right, so here's my email that just came through. Memorial Day savings you're going to love, and you can see it's prefaced with the word test. All right, so here's my email, and you can see that it's as I sent it. I have my image, my links work. So when I click on this, it's going to take me to the URL that I specified, which is the Mothernode homepage account. And so I'm very happy with this. I'm very happy with the way that this looks, and of course I can continue working on this. I wouldn't make emails that are too long. Get right to the point if you can, maybe another section or two down below, but at the same time, nobody wants to read a lot of things. They want to see things. So, use graphics when you can or where you can. Get straight to the point with your messages. Your bigger message comes from the link when you go to the website. That's where you want to drive traffic to. There's a variety of different reasons you want to do that. If you're using website analytics, you can see that working for you. If you're using a call to action, web forms, those sorts of things, though people will fill out information or they'll buy something, that's where you're driving them to. So very important. This is just the beginning of the customer journey as you engage them. You're getting them to go someplace. So remember that. The other thing you want to do is when you take a look back over here, now I can save this. I always want to save, like I said, and I click close. And once I close this, you can see I have my preview. Okay, so as I look at this, this will render in a few seconds, but as I look through this, when I click on the design or the edit this over here, I always see the preview of the email that I'm looking at with the description of the information off to the side. You can make changes at any time you want, and now you're actually ready to put this into a sequence. So the final component with respect to this being placed into a sequence is going to be, we are going to add this to the sequence that we created with the plain text. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, and then see it's rendered now over here in the list. I'm going to go over here to my follow-up sequences, and I'm going to go to the website sequence, filter on this just to get to it quickly. And we saw in the previous exercise for building sequences, we had created these two. And now what I'm going to do in this case here is I'm going to click send as an email, and I'm going to say Memorial Day sequences. And then I'm going to say, how about this? We'll do this one. X days before a calendar event. So Memorial Day is going to be on, let's see, the 29th, right? So it's going to be the 29th. So the calendar event is here, and I want to say, 10 days before at 10 a.m. in the morning. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose sales category, Memorial Day sale, and click save. All right, so now you can see it's been added into the list. Okay. Now, in this case, it's putting it in the middle just because it doesn't know when this is going to be firing, and it believes that this is going to be 5 days after. This one is 10 days before. Okay, this one is date-driven. This one is not. That's why. So in this specific instance, just to be clear on this, if you are in the sequence as a contact prior to the 10 days before, you will receive this 10 days before. If you are in the sequence after the 10-day mark, so let's just say 8 days before, then once you get put into the sequence, you will automatically receive this. Okay, it'll be coming out as soon as possible for you in that case, because it would have been triggered to go 2 days ago, and that way you were just added in afterwards, so it'll go in later on. So that is how you build your HTML campaign templates, some of the basic functions to get you started, and then of course applying them into your sequences as you've seen. So I recommend that, again, you get started, you set yourself up with test contacts as yourselves and some of your colleagues, and start to design your first HTML campaigns, test them, see how they go, and then send them out to your customers.